Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive into today's news?
We've got a lot to cover today, from market moves to corporate shakeups and global developments.
I've been looking through a bunch of sources this morning. MarketWatch, CNBCinvesting.com, you name it.
We'll break it all down for you, give you the insights you need without getting bogged down in the details.
So let's jump right in. Oil markets are interesting today. Saudi Arabia hiked their crude prices for Asian buyers. Seems like they're pretty confident about demand.
Yeah, but on the flip side, U.S. supplies have surged, which could put a damper on those price increases.
So it's like a push and pull, right?
Yeah.
Optimism about demand versus the reality of growing supply.
Exactly. And it'll be interesting to see which force wins out in the end.
Definitely something to keep an eye on. Now the stock market, it's been on a tear lately, defying all expectations.
Trade tensions haven't stopped it, and there's this mysterious deep-seek factor that MarketWatch mentioned, but they were pretty vague about what it actually is.
Sounds intriguing, like something out of a sci-fi movie.
Right, but whatever it is, investors don't seem too worried they're pushing stocks higher.
Maybe they know something we don't. Or maybe they're just ignoring the potential risks.
Only time will tell, I guess. Meanwhile, 10- and 30-year Treasury yields are ticking up today after falling for the past few days.
Seems like the slightly higher than expected jobless claims might be spooking the bond market a bit.
Yeah, the bond market's always sensitive to any hints of economic uncertainty.
Speaking of uncertainty, let's move on to the corporate world. Yum Brands is making a big bet on AI with their new Byte by Yum initiative.
They're trying to optimize their entire operation with it, ordering kitchen operations, delivery, even menu suggestions.
Wow, that's ambitious.
It raises some interesting questions, though. Will it actually boost profits, or will it lead to job losses and maybe even algorithmic bias in food choices?
That's a good point, something to think about. Now, Eli Lilly, they're saying they have tremendous momentum thanks to their diabetes and weight loss drugs, Mounjaro and Zepbound.
Even though sales for those drugs fell short of what analysts were expecting.
So they're not quite blockbusters yet.
Not yet, but they're working on a new weight loss drug called retatrutide, and they're expecting late-stage data on that later this year.
Could be a game changer in the weight loss market.
Definitely has the potential to shake things up. Now, Philip Morris, they're riding high right now, hitting record stock prices.
All thanks to their smokeless products, especially the Zyn nicotine pouch.
Shows how companies can adapt to changing consumer preferences. They're still in the nicotine business, but they're shifting away from traditional cigarettes.
Interesting strategy. But it also raises questions about the long-term health effects of these alternatives and whether it's ethical to market addictive products like that.
Those are important considerations for sure. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, Bristol-Myers Squibb is facing some challenges.
They're feeling the squeeze from cheaper generic competition for some of their older drugs.
That's a common problem for pharmaceutical companies. Patents expire, generics flood the market, and profits take a hit.
So what are they doing about it?
They've announced plans to cut costs by $2 billion by 2027, and they've issued some weaker-than-expected guidance.
Doesn't sound too optimistic.
It highlights the importance of having a strong research and development pipeline for these companies. If they want to stay ahead, they need to keep innovating.
Makes sense. Now, Honeywell is making a pretty big change to their structure. They're splitting into 3 independent companies.
Yeah, and that came after some pressure from activist investor Elliott Management. They hold a $5 billion stake in Honeywell, so they have some clout.
Oh, that's a lot of influence.
This split suggests that Honeywell sees more value in operating as separate, more focused businesses.
So it's all about maximizing shareholder value.
Exactly. And it's part of a bigger trend of activist investors pushing companies to change and adapt.
It's like they're shaking up the corporate world.
In a way, they are. Now, for a retail shakeup, Amazon is on track to hit a major milestone. Analysts are predicting a massive $187 billion in revenue for them this quarter.
Which would mean they're overtaking Walmart in revenue for the first time ever.
It's a huge shift in the retail landscape. Amazon's dominance in e-commerce cloud computing and their wide range of offerings has propelled them to the top.
Makes you wonder what's next for brick-and-mortar stores.
And whether Amazon might face even more scrutiny from regulators concerned about their market power.
Interesting times for retail, that's for sure. Now, not all companies are doing so well. Roblox, the gaming platform, saw their shares take a tumble.
They missed Wall Street's expectations for both bookings and daily active users.
So the competition in the gaming industry must be pretty fierce.
It's a constantly evolving market, and companies need to keep innovating and engaging users if they want to stay ahead.
All right, let's shift gears now and talk about some global news. The Bank of England just made its first interest rate cut of 2025.
Citing concerns about slow economic growth.
So it seems like they're trying to stimulate the economy a bit.
And this move has got people talking about the possibility of further rate cuts, which could have a big impact on UK stocks.
Definitely something for investors to watch closely. Now China is standing firm in their trade battle with the Trump administration.
They're saying they'll protect their interests no matter what they even called the U.S. bullying.
Sounds like this trade war is far from over.
UBS analysts think it's only going to escalate, which could be bad news for companies that rely heavily on China.
Those tariffs can really disrupt supply chains and hurt profits.
It's a reminder of how interconnected the global economy is and how political events can have a ripple effect on your portfolio.
On a lighter note, Pope Francis is battling bronchitis.
But he's still pushing through his schedule. What a trooper.
Talk about dedication.
Hopefully he makes a speedy recovery. All right, let's dive into the political scene. Now, Trump's having a bit of trouble getting his tax cut plans through.
Yeah, it seems like even with the Republican majority, there's some pushback.
Those fiscal hawks in the party, they're demanding some serious spending cuts before they'll even consider the tax cuts.
So it's a bit of a standoff then. Classic battle between wanting tax relief and worrying about the deficit.
Exactly. Meanwhile, the Trump administration is moving full steam ahead with their government overhaul. They're really urging federal workers to take those buyouts.
Trying to slim down the federal workforce, huh? Fits with Trump's campaign promises, I guess.
Yeah, but it puts those federal employees in a tough spot. The education department even warned staff that those buyout offers could be revoked at any time.
Adds a whole other layer of stress to an already tough decision. All right, shifting gears a bit. House Democrats are calling for an investigation into Elon Musk's government team.
They're worried about potential conflicts of interest considering all of Musk's business ventures. Tesla, SpaceX, his role in the Department of Government Efficiency.
It's tricky, isn't it, when you have these high-profile business leaders stepping into government roles? Those conflicts of interest are always a concern.
Definitely. And speaking of scrutiny, the Trump administration just settled that lawsuit about DOGE access to Treasury Department payment systems.
The one that claimed the Treasury was improperly sharing private info with Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, right?
That's the one. As part of the settlement, DOGE access to those payment systems is going to be restricted.
I bet privacy advocates are happy about that.
Mm.
Oh, hey, speaking of developments, remember that mysterious DeepSeek thing we talked about earlier?
Yeah, it's starting to make some waves.
Still not a lot of details out there, though.
Nope. But some analysts are speculating that DeepSeek could be some revolutionary new technology that could disrupt whole industries.
That's what's making everyone so anxious, right? That lack of information. It's like trying to solve a puzzle with half the pieces missing.
Exactly. Investors are scrambling to figure out what it all means. It's generating a lot of excitement, but also a lot of apprehension.
High-stakes game for sure. All right, back to the corporate world for a sec. Amazon, they're always up to something new.
Their latest venture, Amazon Pharmacy, they're going head-to-head with the big guys, CVS, Walgreens.
Seems like they're determined to dominate every industry out there.
It's a bold move for sure. Could be great for consumers, potentially lower prices, more convenience. But it also raises those concerns about data privacy and whether it's good to have one company controlling so many different sectors.
Yeah, that's something to think about for sure. Speaking of dominating, Google's in the hot seat. Again, facing another wave of antitrust lawsuits.
This time it's about their control over the digital advertising market. The lawsuits claim they're using their power to stifle competition and hurt both advertisers and consumers.
If those lawsuits are successful, it could really reshape the whole digital advertising landscape.
Definitely could impact Google's revenue and change the way businesses reach their target audiences. All right, let's switch gears again and talk about something a bit more serious. The conflict between Israel and Palestine.
Things have escalated recently, haven't they? Rocket attacks, airstrikes.
It's a heartbreaking situation, and this latest violence just highlights how complex and deep-rooted this conflict is. Finding a peaceful solution seems almost impossible.
It's a stark reminder of the human cost of conflict and how desperately we need diplomacy to prevail. Now, shifting focus to the environment, there's growing concern about all these extreme weather events we've been seeing.
Scientists are pointing to climate change as the culprit. They're urging global leaders to work together to address this issue before it's too late.
The consequences of inaction are pretty scary, right? Impacts on agriculture, infrastructure, human health, even migration patterns.
Yeah, it's a wake-up call for sure. We need to prioritize sustainability and invest in solutions now. All right, let's bring it back home for a minute. The U.S. housing market is booming right now.
I've heard about that prices are going crazy and it's super competitive for buyers.
It's being driven by a few things. Low interest rates, limited inventory, a growing population, but it's also raising concerns about affordability and whether we're headed for another housing bubble.
It's a double-edged sword for sure. All right, one more story before we move on. Remember that missing submersible that was exploring the Titanic wreckage?
Yeah, that's a gripping story. Everyone's on the edge of their seats hoping for a miracle. The rescue teams are working against the clock. Those oxygen supplies are dwindling.
It's a reminder of how dangerous deep-sea exploration can be and how important those safety protocols are. We'll definitely be following that story closely.
Now let's lighten things up a bit with some sports. The NBA Finals are heating up.
The Warriors and the Celtics, they're both playing incredible basketball.
It's a classic clash of styles, and it's anyone's game right now. It makes for some really exciting viewing.
Absolutely. And speaking of excitement, a rare Van Gogh painting just sold at auction for a record-breaking price.
Sunflowers in a vase went for over $150 million. Shows you the enduring power of art.
It really does.
Right.
All right, one last topic before we wrap up artificial intelligence.
Researchers are making some incredible breakthroughs in AI these days. Natural language processing, machine learning.
It's changing the world as we know it.
It has the potential to revolutionize pretty much every industry you can think of: healthcare, finance, transportation, entertainment.
It's both exciting and a little bit scary, isn't it?
The key is to think about the ethical implications of AI and make sure that it's being developed and used in a way that benefits humanity.
That's a crucial point.
Mm-hmm.
As we navigate this rapidly changing world, staying informed and having these important conversations is more important than ever. Wow, we covered a lot of ground today, huh?
Yeah, we did. From markets and companies to global events and cutting-edge tech.
It's a lot to take in, but hopefully everyone listening feels a little more informed and maybe even a little bit surprised by what's happening in the world.
We always try to give you that broader perspective, connect the dots between the different stories.
And help you see how these events might impact your own life, your investments, your understanding of the world.
Exactly. Like if you're invested in UK stocks, that Bank of England rate cut is definitely something to consider.
Or if you're heavily invested in companies that do a lot of business with China, those trade tensions could really shake things up.
It's all about understanding the ripple effects, right? One event can trigger a whole chain reaction across different sectors and markets.
And that's why we encourage everyone listening to really think critically about these developments and how they might affect their own decisions and outlook.
Absolutely. All right, so as we wrap up today's deep dive, we want to leave you with something to think about.
Something to ponder as you go about your day.
We've talked about a lot of different stories today, each with its own complexities and uncertainties.
But there's one theme that keeps popping up.
Change. The world is changing constantly and at an incredible pace.
From technology and geopolitics to consumer behavior and the environment we're living in, a time of unprecedented transformation.
Which creates opportunities but also risks for individuals, businesses, and society as a whole.
So it's more important than ever to stay adaptable, informed, and engaged.
Exactly. Embrace the unknown, stay curious, and never stop learning.
And remember, we're here to help you make sense of it all. We'll be back tomorrow with another deep dive into the news. Until then, stay informed, stay engaged, and stay ahead of the curve.